Alrighty, hey guys, ZenAku here again with a patch review of the March update that's about to be released in the next 24 hours. Some cool things about balance changes and also a new mode as well, so we'll just go straight into it. INSTAGIB, which is coming out with abilities attached onto it. So as the title of the mode suggests, you basically can just insta-kill anyone with the railgun, and also if you have your ability, if it touches anyone, it insta-kills anyone too. And I think that's a good mode because, again, people that actually did play the other modes and had, struggling to use the weapons or to utilize, health stack and stuff like that can be a little bit difficult, but INSTAGIB is like at least a place to start. Next up, 2v2 seems to be the craze at the moment. Everyone's playing 2v2. I like where it's going at the moment. It feels relatively balanced. I think Doomguy and Gleaner is still a little bit too strong on all the smaller maps, but that might be addressed later on. Not too much to say about these ones. These are just kind of like extras. Just some spring stuff with Easter. I think there's new champion shaders, weapon shaders, nameplates, hats. Let's just skip over the fucking hats. Basically, okay, straight to champion balance. Anarchy 50, Armor 75. They've also increased the speed cap is now 2000, so it means that every champion can basically just keep strafing. And they also reduced the air acceleration, so a lot of people were abusing this crouch accel, which I believe means that if you're in air at the moment, if you tried to crouch accel over to some place, you can't abuse that anymore, which is good because it was a little bit ridiculous, and we'll talk about more about that later. Although I still think that they haven't changed the way that Anarchy worked before, which was, his movement was very fluid when you go around corners, whereas now, if he's not injected, it's just, he loses so much speed sometimes when he's turning, and I feel like if you're going to nerf a character to that low of a HP, it's still a little bit unusable. Unless he goes back to how ridiculous he was. If you're going to have a character with that low health stack, then he's really clean, but at the moment, even in 2v2, I reckon he's not playable at the moment, but then even with the armor increase, it's hard to say if he will be. BJ Blazkowicz again, same, no forward acceleration, bunny hop removed, increased max strafe speed. Now there's a big one for everybody that especially plays duel and even just maybe in deathmatch as well. You might see clutches get really used a lot at the moment. So they're increasing his size. Okay, whatever, it's only up by 0.5 anyway, or 0.5. Oh, sorry, 0.05. They're also reducing his stack by 50, so reduced health stack by 25, reduced armor by 25. But I believe he actually starts with 150 armor, which means that he's not as killable off spawn. Yeah, his max armor is reduced. That's kind of cool too. Now I don't understand what this forward acceleration gear shift steps. I don't even quite understand that. We'll have to see what that really means when we actually do play the game. But here's the interesting thing. So dodge min time delay 0 to 125 milliseconds. So after when he dodged, if someone used to dodge and just get 2000 ups after hitting stairs, because they could just spam out, use scroll wheel, so they're nerfing that. That's fantastic. Min cooldown after landing. So again, instead of people just spamming it as soon as they land, they can get so much speed. I think this is a good change as well. I'm not too sure about how this, because they've already really reduced how quickly you can attack somebody, but now they've made a soft speed cap. So as soon as he reaches 690 ups, which everybody might start using the speedometer meter to actually be able to see when it's coming, means that you can't actually dodge as soon as you get to 690, which I think is good as well, because especially in duel it was a bit ridiculous. If somebody was caught out of position, if they missed a railgun and didn't slow you down by that one shot, they were dead, and the amount of trade that would happen would mean that the clutch was always on top. Dodge up power is 0.3 to 0.2, so I imagine that the amount of speed you actually do get from a dodge may be a little bit less, which is cool too. Mining drill fire rate a little bit lower, so it's actually weaker than the LG, and the mining drill range 8,000 units to 1,200 units. So I think 8,000 units was the map, anywhere on the map really, whereas now it's pretty much, I imagine, if you're a big armor on Blood Covenant, you probably shoot somebody at at Rocket Bridge, but if they're at Railgun, you probably can't hit them, which is a nice change too, because you could do this bullshit where you like rail and then switch to the instant damage, and it would like just kill people too easily. Whereas now it's kind of like if you're charging somebody with rockets with shield and you just need like 30 extra damage, then it's a nice little addition, I would think. And they've also increased the radius, because if they're going to reduce the damage, may as well do that too. Again, so no crouch accel for Doomslayer. Bunny hop removed again for Galena. I like that. She's like, again, maybe in one-on-one, and also with the nerf on clutch, you might see less Galenas now too. Now this is where it's interesting too, because if they're gonna increase the max strafe speed for a lot, like for all the characters, it means that champions like Keel, when they're running around the map, actually have a bit more of a pacing to be able to just like close the distance on people, which was a bit of an issue before. But you might be able to see him maybe a little bit more used on Corrupted, but definitely on maps like Vale of Narth and stuff like that. Sometimes, you would go through the teleporter, try to jump on big armor, and depending on how you jumped, you could actually fucking miss it sometimes. So with the speed increase, you should almost always get it. Same deal with Ranger. Nyx, same deal as well. Wall jump forward impulse 0.0, 0.35. So I actually kind of like this change too. I imagine when I read this, it feels like when she wall jumps, sometimes she would just kind of gracefully fall, but now it's kind of, if she wall jumps, she would almost like fall towards the direction of whoever she, if she's facing towards somebody, she would fall towards them. And it would mean that the wall jump is essentially less effective, because the person who she's fighting now has the ability to air rocket her more easily, because she's fucking running directly at them. And again, none of this crass accel bullshit. Scale Bearer, a little bit reduction to his health, max speed increase. They've also forward accel max strafe speed. Oh, so they've actually made his strafe speed to 500, which is cool, because it was a bit weird. Forward accel max strafe speed. Yeah, it was a bit weird when he would like strafe jump, and then you would have to fucking just land and then press W and you actually go faster. So now they've actually made a bit of a change to that, it looks like. Increased damage from Bull Rush 0 to, of 25 to 50 at 300 to 400 ups, 50 to 75 at 400 to 500 ups. So again, you can hit people a bit easier in those lower ranges. I think it's going to make him at least a little bit more usable, because you actually want to be attacking people directly. Crouch slide friction 0.8 to 1.5, maybe a bit slower. Not able to get as much speed when she's crouch sliding. Plasma Trail speed boost 1.35 to 1.2. Still not a bad change. I really liked it when you could actually activate the ability while you're LGing somebody, and you would make it, more difficult for you to hit, but they've gone that way. Now here's an interesting thing about Solag too. So they've actually reduced starting armor 50 to 25, increased strafe speed, fair enough. Air control maximum move speed 35 to 25. So I imagine that's like the amount of speed you could possibly gain while moving. Air control circle strafe friction 5.5 to 1. So that would mean that I think basically when she's actually changing direction in the middle of the air, she won't get as much reduction in speed. But they've also added this extra thing, which is bunny hop drag speed added at 400 ups. So essentially when she starts getting too quick, or if you start going like over 1,000 ups, she'll actually just start slowing down, which I guess I kind of like as well, because you ended up with these really weird scenarios where a rocket jumping Solag will come out of the, flying around the map at whatever uncapped movement speed she was at, and it would just kind of end these like random situations, whereas now it's kind of, you have to be a little bit more tactical about when you actually do your rocket jump. You have to actually know where they are, rather than trying to just flying around the map and then just killing somebody. Visor actually capped at 2,400. I don't know who the fuck's even going to be able to get to that, but they might have to rework him a bit too, because again, now with its uncapped speed movement, basically Visor's passive ability becomes a little bit less relevant. Client-side hit registration for kills grenades, Solag spit, and clutch mining laser. Fixed an issue with FPS and how the champions actually moved as well. And again, with bunny hop speed increases when crouched while jumping, so that's actually should be reduced. Maybe still a little bit on Solag, but it's lessened. And I think, and now we're okay. Now we're up to weapon balance. So machine gun 8 to 9, shotgun knockback 1 to 2. They've actually made the nail gun shoot a little bit slower. And they've also reduced the knockback 13.5 to 5. So essentially what was happening was, if you actually got a good pin of nails onto somebody, it would totally like really mess up their movement, whereas now I feel like it's going to be reduced a bit. If you actually do get hit by the nail gun, you actually have more maneuverability out of it, rather than just getting locked and you just take too much. Heavy machine gun zoomed reload 200 milliseconds to 150. This is really good too, because maps like Blood Covenant, if you didn't have the railgun, sometimes it can be really difficult depending on the champions you're playing, right? Whereas now they've essentially increased the damage by 25%. And they've also made it that, you know, if you're, sometimes you're actually shooting the heavy machine gun, and you would, if you're, for whatever reason, you shoot as the gun is reloading, or you'd go over them while the gun is reloading, and you'd somehow still, you know, you'd be on them most of the time, but as the bullet is shooting, you just off them by, you know, half a second or whichever it was. And so sometimes the DPS would be really random, maybe really high or really low in somewhere between. But the lower, the higher fire rate basically means that, you know, if you're on them for at least a period of time, you should hit more, which is going to be good. Knockback 12 to 5, super nail gun. Self splash 14 to 15. Self knockback 22.5 to 30. So it could mean that people can do more nail climbs, or it's a little bit more responsive. Tribolt, I don't know if we really need to talk about that, but it's fair enough. Lightning gun knockback 9 to 8. Could be interesting. Railgun zoom 90 to 100. Not too much to really actually, I mean, it's kind of relevant, but at the same time, you know, it works both ways for both players, I guess. Maybe a little bit more difficult for the smaller champions to really make plays, because again, if you're going to be able to rail somebody, especially when they pick up, you know, if they're in that obviously 100 health range, you can just kill them, which makes them more vulnerable. So we could see like middle health and large champions really make a comeback in that. Protection 75%, reduced damage down to 60%. And I think that's pretty much it. Not much else to really say. I think there was one issue here where you could actually spawn in the same place multiple times, which is fucking stupid in 2v2 sometimes, because you'd spawn in like the area with like no weapons or something like that, which would cause issues. Just some client-side hit registration changes and some crash changes. Well, that's pretty much it. Not much extra maps or champions just yet, but I feel like they said 5 champions this year, and possible full release at the end of this year, I think I heard somewhere too, but we'll have to see. Would really like to see some tournaments actually be announced, because there really isn't much reason to play. At least like on my end, you probably could play the game for a couple hours, but besides that, there doesn't seem to be much more incentive. Well, especially if you're an Australian player. I'm not sure like Europe and America, but even besides that, there's no major tournaments. Anyway, I'll stop complaining. That's pretty much it, guys. Thanks for watching. If you like what you saw, please subscribe and let me know what you thought of the video. And yeah, I'll see you guys sometime soon. So peace out.